Oh, yeah, 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 Alrighty. So with that razzle-dazzle intro, I figured that since we're change of venue here, I might go with a change of intro for the chapter review video here and a change of attire, rocking the brown suit here. So here we go, chapter 13 and 14 test review, talking everything from Manifest Destiny through some of the reform movements that we took a look at chapter 13. We open up chapter 13 by taking a look at Trails West. Number one, who opened up the West? Well, that would be the Mountain Men. And how did they do that? Well, they opened up the West by simply going out there, exploring the West, exploring, finding trails, and then telling stories to people back east, opening up the West for them. Number two, the rendezvous system. Every spring, the mountain men would come down from the mountains, looking a little bit like me, perhaps a little bit more shaggy. And they would come down from the mountains, and they would bring their furs with them. Meeting them would be, of course, merchants who would come and sell them things. They would trade in this rendezvous system. A rendezvous is just a meeting. When you rendezvous with someone, you meet them. And so the mountain men and the merchants would meet every spring. Number three, why did the Mormons go west? Simply put, religious persecution. They were attacked for their religious views back east, so they decided that they were going to head out west. Plenty of land, nobody around to persecute them, where they eventually settled in Utah. Utah today still has the largest population percentage of Mormons out of any other state in the United States. Then the fifth question for Trails West, explain why people were willing to take the extremely difficult journey out west. Well, think about it. If you have no opportunities back east, if life is not going good for you, you head west. Plenty of open land, plenty of opportunity. Land was cheap, resources were plentiful, so they moved west to start a new life. Texas Revolution. Moving on to Section 2, who are the Tejanos? They were just people who lived in Texas who were of Spanish descent, Tejanos. Number 7, who was Stephen Austin and why was he important? He was the son of Moses Austin. He founded the colony of Texas with the permission of the Mexican government, and then eventually he was the one who more or less led the call for Texas to declare their independence from Mexico. Number 8, laws that the Americans resented living in the Texas colony. Number 1, there are 3 things that they resented. Number 1, they were forced to be Catholic, join the Catholic Church. They did not like that. Number 2, all official documents, or los documentos oficiales, had to be in Espanol. I know that's shocking that a Mexican colony would have to, where the primary language is Spanish, would have to be done in Spanish, but the Texas colonists did not care for that. And then the third thing that they were upset about was that slavery was eventually banned in the colony of Texas. So had to be Catholic, had to use Spanish, and slavery was banned. So the Tejanos, why did they dislike many Americans in Texas? Well, simply because the Americans did not like following the Mexican laws. Americans were kind of cocky and a little bit arrogant, had this sense of entitlement like they were superior to the Tejanos. So they did not get along at all. Number 10, why did Americans fighting for Texas independence often use the phrase, "Remember the Alamo"? Remember, the Alamo was that battle where every single American was killed in a battle against General Lopez de Santa Anna, against the Mexicans early on in the Texas War for Independence. The few that did survive were later hung or shot, as to make an example of. And so you think, it's kind of like a sporting event. If maybe you lost the last time against a team, maybe you lost in that, game, beginning of the season game, your coach gets you all riled up before, and, remember that game earlier this season when they beat us? Well, we're going to come back. We're going to overturn that loss. We're going to avenge that loss. So it was this rallying cry. Never forget the Alamo. Never forget the countless lives that were given at the Alamo. Number 11, then, Texas wanted to join the U.S. immediately, almost immediately after it beat Mexico. Why did the U.S. not take Texas? Why did they not annex Texas immediately in 1836? 2 reasons. First of all, the issue of slavery, a common theme, going all the way back to the Missouri Compromise when Missouri became a slave state, Maine became a free state. We had the same thing here. If Texas comes into the Union, it's going to upset that balance of slave states and free states. In the North, they're not cool with that. They're worried that the southern states, just checking my time here, they're worried that the southern states are going to take over. Holy crap, I got to go. So slavery, and the second was they were afraid that it would cause war with Mexico, leading us into number 12, Section 3, war with Mexico. Number 12, where did we get the Oregon Territory? Well, we got that from Britain. Remember, we split that in half. Britain got the top half, we got the southern half, split at the 49th parallel. When did the Mexican War begin? That was April of 1846, when Texas joined the United States, coincidentally. After Zachary Taylor sent troops along the Rio Grande River basically saying, "Na na 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 boo boo, you can't get us," provoking Mexican troops who fired upon them, fired upon the Americans. James Polk, president at the time, went to Congress, said, "Let's declare war against Mexico." Congress agreed, and off we go to war with Mexico. Number 14, Polk was president at that time. And then number 15, it was a very short war. The United States did very well, but in 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo ended the war between Mexico and the United States, which gives us number 16, the large chunk of land that we received from Mexico, known as the Mexican Cession, including parts of Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, etc., 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 Nevada. I don't know them all off the top of my head. You don't have to know them all either, but that huge lower southwest portion of the United States. Brings us to the term 17 and 18, manifest destiny. What is manifest destiny? Remember, manifest destiny is simply that belief that the United States would stretch from sea to shining sea, from the Atlantic coast to the Pacific coast. I'm missing my maps here. And not only that we should stretch from coast to coast, but we would. It was our destiny. It was our fate. And then so number 18, how does the idea of manifest destiny tie in with the war with Mexico? Well, it was about land. Plain and simple, right? I mean, this was a war over land to get a bunch of land in the Southwest, which is what we did. On the Gold Rush, Section 4, number 19, who were the Californios. They were people of Spanish or Mexican descent settling in California. Number 20, what year did the Gold Rush start? 1849. San Francisco 49ers, Gold Rush 49ers. 21, what group of people came? The Chinese. The Chinese was a very large immigrant population coming to California in this time, and their influence, you go to San Francisco today, go to Chinatown, the influence of the Chinese is still very strong in certain parts of California today, dating back to that Gold Rush. 22, what were 3 effects of the discovery of gold in California? Well, first of all, remember, nobody got rich off of gold. It was only the merchants that got rich off of the people looking for gold. But our 3 effects, the Californios, the people of Spanish or Mexican descent, they lost a lot of their land. Number 2, Native Americans lost a lot of their land. A lot of them were killed. In fact, their numbers dropped by as much as 60% during that time, perhaps more. And then thirdly, perhaps most important for our study of history right now, California becomes a free state in 1850, which is also 23, but California becomes a free state in 1850, upsetting that balance, slave states and free states. California is a free state. The free states now outnumber slave states. We've got problems. So for the past 30 years, from 1820 to 1850, this issue of slave states and free states is still not settled, and within a few short years, 10, 11 years, the United States will fight their civil war over it. So that's also 24, why California's issue of, good coffee, but that's why the issue of California statehood was debated. All right, so that's Chapter 13, Westward Expansion, Manifest Destiny, United States Grew. Think back to that floor exercise that we did out front when we, moved around through all the territories, and think about how the U.S. gained all those territories. Number 14, Chapter 14, Hopes of Immigrants. Number 25, define immigrant, that is with an I, immigrant. Those are people who settle in a new country. And 26, emigrant with an E. Emigrants are people who leave a country. So if I leave the United States, I am an emigrant. And when I go and settle in Tahiti, I am an immigrant to Tahiti. Identify three pull factors. That's a typo. 3 pull factors. Those are things that are pulling you to a new place. Freedom, money, and land. Freedom, money, and land. Pull factors. Identify 5 push factors. Overpopulation, crowded. Agricultural changes. Crop failures. The Industrial Revolution, and then religious and political persecution. These are things pushing people out of their country, saying, get out! 29, who are the know-nothings? They were a political party. They were nativists. Basically, they were opposed to immigration. They said, if you are not from America, then get out. We don't want you here. They were called know-nothings because when people asked them about their their racist views, they said, we know nothing about it. They denied it. They didn't last real long. American literature and art. Transcendentalists. Remember, early hippies in the mid-1800s. They believed that the spiritual world was more important than, the physical world. Civil disobedience, number 31. What does that mean? That means to peacefully disobey. So, for example, if you do not support you pay taxes, you do not support the current war in Iraq and Afghanistan, you could choose to go to jail and not pay your taxes rather than having your tax money go to that war, as was done by Henry David Thoreau with the war with Mexico. Reforming American society, number 32. What is a labor union? That's a group of people who band together to increase working conditions. 33, Second Great Awakening, revival of religious faith. 34, temperance movement is about alcohol. 36, Underground Railroad, escape routes from the south through the north. 2 leaders, number 37 of the 36, Tubman, Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass were 2 leaders in the Underground Railroad. What does abolition or abolish mean? Well, that means you end slavery. Number 38, what is suffrage? Do you think it's a good thing? Suffrage simply means voting rights. So yes, you do think it is a good thing. If someone says, do you support suffrage? You should say, yes, I do support suffrage. It's not suffrage, like sitting through Mr. Rogers' class would be suffrage. Suffrage is voting. Don't tell him I said that. Number 39, big women's rights convention held in 1848. Talked about it in class. That would be the Seneca Falls Convention. When were women finally allowed to vote? 1920 was when women were finally allowed to vote with the 19th Amendment. You could vote in New Jersey as early as 1776, however, but nationally. And then number 41, name of a former slave, Frederick Douglass also supported abolition and women's rights. That's all I got for now. Good luck. See ya.